Hi folks, it's Matt Biondo from Niagara Historical Fencing, and I'm here today to bring you a video about tournament preparation. So, first and foremost, when you're preparing for a tournament, you're going to want to manage your own expectations of what you want out of the tournament. A lot of people, when they are just starting to get into the tournament scene, they put all this unnecessary pressure on themselves and always thinking about like, oh, I need to win or I need to medal or et cetera, et cetera. So the reality is the vast majority of people will lose, including people who routinely get gold medals. When you look at the way a tournament is structured, there's pretty much only one person that won't lose at all at a tournament. Okay, and even sometimes that person may lose a round or two in the pools, depending on how it's seeded. I myself have won tournaments where I've lost bouts in the pools to then go on into eliminations and win. So the reality is you have to be ready to lose. And a lot of people aren't ready for that in their first tournament. They kind of put on blinders and think about, oh, I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm gonna just keep winning. But you have to be realistic. And like I said, even the best fencers lose. So, number one thing I say for people just getting onto the tournament scene, or maybe have done one or two, is to manage your own expectations of what is going to come out of that tournament. The second thing you're going to want out of your tournament preparation is to choose a goal. Okay, for some people, the goal is to medal or to win the tournament, but it's not so for everyone. I've met many awesome fencers who go into it saying, okay, this tournament, I'm going to focus on sportsmanship. I'm just going to be the best fencing partner for all the people that I'm fencing with, and I'm going to be kind and honest about my fencing while I'm there. I've also met other people who wanted to focus on executing specific techniques from the sources that they study, and pressure testing them in a setting where like there are actually stakes on the line. So choosing a goal is really important. For some people, it's simply, I want to make it to eliminations, or I want to make it at a first round of eliminations. Okay. For some people, it's like, I want to even win one bout in my pools. So this goes hand in hand with managing your own expectations for a tournament, which is setting goals for yourself. The next item on our list is having a conversation with your instructor. Now, if you are the instructor, for instance, in my case, you can always talk to your assistant instructors, other people that run the club, or senior students that are willing to assist in the endeavor of the tournament prep. But having a conversation with your instructor is really important because they can assist you with the steps 1 and 2 of managing your own expectations, setting your goals, and keeping to them. And they can also help you with the next part of tournament prep, which is understanding the rules, studying them and understanding them. So studying the rules is really important because in our lead up to the tournament, we want to take at least, I'd say, a month and try and apply the rule set in your weekly training. So what do I mean by that? So we read the rules, we understand them, and then, for instance, in my club, the last half hour of our classes is normally free sparring. And we can utilize that time for our tournament prep. So in order to utilize it effectively, you're going to want to have other people that understand the rules and someone that can be able to judge the rules, and they will also have to understand it. So it takes a little bit of effort from your club. This works really well if you have a group of people going to the tournament, since everybody's invested in it, everybody can study the rules, and everyone's going to want to prep for them. Studying the rules is really important because HEMA tournaments in particular are all over the place for their rule sets. There is no standardization, even across Canada or North America or the world. Every single tournament has their own rules, and we have to adapt to each rule set. So some of the things you're looking out for in the rules are how are points scored, what are the penalties, how do they deal with ring outs, how do they deal with after blows, what are the gear requirements, what are the weapon requirements, etc. So going back to how the tournament scores points, you're going to want to look at things like, does the tournament have weighted targets? For instance, 2 points for the head and the body, 1 point for the arm and legs, because these can really impact your fencing. And that's one of the reasons why we want to take about a month of time to stress test the rule set in an environment, in a sparring environment. You want to be able to adhere to the rules and not have it impact how you fence. The more you do the rules in a pressure tested environment, the less you're going to be thinking about how best to get around the rules. You want to make it so that your fencing will come out in your bouts regardless of the rule set. Unfortunately, there's a lot of mental blocks that people get when they look at certain rule sets. For instance, with the weighted targets, a lot of people will all of a sudden stop throwing arm hits, leg hits, etc. if those are the lowest weighted targets. I can speak for experience where that's not a good idea, because you're just removing half of your fencing from the picture if you're only going for deep targets. So that's kind of what I mean when I say you want your fencing not to be impacted by the rule set. So you want to be able to stress test having to do arm hits when someone can just double to your head and then get the 2 points when you only got one, and then they do the difference, so the opponent gets 1 point. So you want to be able to get those hand hits and look for ways to do them in a safer way. And ultimately, it'll improve your fencing generally, because you're going to be thinking more about how do I do these things safely. It's the same concept with after blows. So some tournaments will have no after blows. Some tournaments will have a very small after blow window. And some tournaments will have a full tempo where people can throw an after blow, and then it's essentially counted as a double, or again, depends on the tournament. So if you're not used to receiving after blows, this is going to be a huge problem for you. And having that month of bouting where people are allowed to throw after blows is going to vastly improve your chances of succeeding in that tournament. Penalties are another part where you want to focus some of your efforts. For instance, I've seen some tournaments that give penalties for ring outs, and the severity of the penalty increases with the amount of times you do it. So for people that like to retreat a lot and end up getting ring outs, this is something that you're going to have to modify in your fencing. Gear requirements and weapon requirements. So for some tournaments, they are a little more lenient on gear requirements, but more and more nowadays you're seeing tournaments require no skin showing and padded equipment on every part of your body, and hard protection on like elbows and things like that. So you're going to want to make sure that your kit is up to par with the requirements of the tournament. And it's the same thing with weapon requirements. Every tournament makes their rules differently. So you could go to one saber tournament where the max length of your blade can be 34 inches, and then you can go to another one where it's 36 inches. So you have to make sure that your gear fits those requirements. And you want to be training with the gear and the weapons that fit the requirements of your upcoming tournament. Going back to the pre-tournament prep, it doesn't all have to just be bouting, having a judge, going to the points. You can also make sparring games that will help you in certain aspects of your fencing that you think may be at a deficit for this specific rule set. Some examples could be, you do one hit for each part of the body, but if you do a parry and immediately riposte, that gets 2 points. And you're going to see how much it impacts how people fence. And that's the kind of thing that you want to look at. You make one tweak, and all of a sudden your brain's only focusing on, oh, okay, I can't take first intention because that allows them to parry and riposte, and they'll get 2 points. So that's part of why you want to do sparring games, because you want to get out of your own head. You want to be able to fence as you normally do effectively within the rule set. So sparring games really help you get over those mental blocks that different rules make in your mind. Now, in the final week lead up to the tournament, you're going to want to focus more on rest, recovery, and recuperation, so that you know that your body is going to be the best it can be on tournament day. Now, I don't mean don't do any fencing, don't do any sparring. I'm more talking about lowering the intensity level so that you avoid injuries. Because one of the things that I've seen across my martial arts career, HEMA, other traditional martial arts, etc., is that in the macro scale of your physical career, managing injuries is a major part of it. And the closer you get to a tournament, the more nerves are going to be impacting your body. So you want to kind of dial it back a little bit to potentially avoid any last minute injuries. Okay, the final thing I wanted to close out on is, okay, we've done our at least a month of preparation. We've had our rest week, and now we're at the tournament. It's the day of the tournament. How do we approach this? Well, first thing I'd say is don't try and isolate yourself, especially if you're going into a tournament by yourself. The HEMA community is one of the best communities I've ever been a part of. And even at tournaments, people are willing to talk. They're willing to exchange ideas on fencing. They're just there to have a good time. Like I was saying, a lot of people's goals, going back to one of the first points, is just to have fun. So I would say don't lose track of having fun, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all there to do. So when you're there on the first day of the tournament and you're waiting for your pools to start and you're getting to know the people in your pool, you're most likely going to have a lot of time to have some discussions with them. And a lot of people, when the nerves start getting them, they start making excuses for things. For instance, my knee's been hurting a lot today, or I've got this old injury that's been causing me trouble, or, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night because I was so anxious about the tournament. All those things may be true, but they're most likely true for your opponent as well. Everyone has to manage their injuries, their anxiety, etc. At these tournaments, and it's doing a disservice to both yourself and your opponent to try and preempt the possible loss that you'll have by giving these excuses. Early on in my martial arts career, I was given one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got, and I try and stay true to it to this day, and it's that everyone's got stuff going on. No one's at 100%, especially on just a random day of the week. So you have to give the best that you can on that specific day. That's really all you can ask for, and it's all that you can hope for from your opponent. So that about wraps up my little crash course on tournament prep. But just to re-summarize what I've gone over, have a goal, manage your expectations, have a conversation with your instructor or some other senior members, bout with the rule set for at least a month, make some sparring games, get that rest weekend at the end, and on the day of, just give the best that you can on that day. Thanks, everybody.